Hello, my name is John Terrell, and my organization is called League Bound Prevention Institute. I want to start off with a quote by American historian by the name of Carter G. Woodson. And in this quote, he starts off by saying that the mere imparting of knowledge is not teaching or educating. Above all things, the effort must result in thinking a man to do and think for himself. In our communities, we have very few teachers of our own, and those who actually educate our children know much to nothing about the children they teach or about the parents who influence students more than the teachers themselves. When a boy comes to school without knowing his lesson, he shouldn't be patronized or ridiculed, he should be studied. As a rule, such children are not responsible for their failures. He closes by saying, but can we be expected to revolutionize the social order of community? Indeed, we must expect this very thing. The education system is worthless unless we accomplish this task. So, what League Bound Prevention Institute plans on doing is supporting revolutionizing the way that we teach kids social emotional wellness and using their interests to be able to do so, and also using those interests to bring schools and families together. And so in this video, we're going to give you an overview of what it is that we plan to do.
In my experience as an educator and after-school specialist, I've come across many different children, all great in their own ways, and all have their own personal challenges to overcome. What I could have done more of to help them overcome those challenges and prepare them for the real world. I mean, if there was a tree that provided the fruit of social emotional wellness, I believe we would all take from it to become the best versions of ourselves. So reflecting on this helped me realize that everyone may not be directly taught social emotional skills with trauma-informed practices in our homes, schools, or extracurricular programs. And these reflections are what birthed the League Bound Prevention Institute. How can we intersect families, schools, and extracurricular programming to impact the whole child? Whether a community organization wants to provide extracurricular programming through basketball, band, or engineering, they need families, schools, and volunteers. League Bound Prevention Institute believes it can support this process by engaging families, schools, and extracurricular programming to work collaboratively. One of the judges asked me what success looks like. I believe success looks like a community of quality extracurricular programming, children being socially and emotionally developed, and parents and community working together to impact youth. League Bound Prevention Institute will support this by providing prevention services and training youth development coaches to engage families. League Bound Prevention envisions community organizations getting on the same page to identify what families need and then working together to give it to them. Schools must make their facilities available to community organizations, but organizations must also be prepared to collaborate with schools and provide quality services. For instance, if I'm a community organization that wants to provide basketball programming, I go to the school and say I want to use your gym for programming. The school asks 3 questions. Will the services be offered to their students? Will the coaches be trained? And does your organization provide prevention services? Now, in the current state of extracurricular programming, some of the answers to these questions will be no. But if the organization makes a commitment to provide these services, they can work with League Bound Prevention Institute to ensure coaches are trained. Prevention services will be offered, and the organization is prepared to engage youth and families. Now, the coaches are trained, and the partnership with League Bound Prevention Institute allows quality programming to be provided. This makes schools happy because youth are connected to services that improve attendance, behavior, and academics. Partner organizations are happy because of access to school facilities. The families are happy because they're informed and engaged by extracurricular organizations, and their children are receiving quality programming. This level of engagement builds the confidence that children are in safe environments that are nurtured with trauma-informed practices that will provide the fruit of social emotional wellness that parents desire. Most importantly, children are happy because they're engaged in their interest in a safe environment with people that care and provide the life lessons they can carry throughout life. So what does this look like from a parent's perspective? A child goes to their parents and says, I want to pursue a particular interest. Or a parent tells their child, you're going to pursue a particular interest. The family signs the child up with a local extracurricular program. The child goes to school all day and learns wonderful things, then transitions into their after-school program, where they get access to an extracurricular program. Typically, all a child wants to do is have fun, and once they find the right interest, they will. But what is unique about using children's interests is that they learn in such natural ways. They have development that impacts attendance, academics, and behavior. From a child's perspective, the child participates in a fun activity with their friends, while developing their social and emotional wellness, and teaching them the fundamentals of their interests. The child also develops relationships with professional staff that supports the child's character development and help families and schools. Now, programming doesn't just have to be sports. It can be engineering clubs, art clubs, etc. But what's great is that they can all have access to league-bound practices, which would support whole child development using trauma-informed practices. To get started, I'll be starting with a small pilot. The pilot is structured to show the impact of how collaborating with extracurricular partner organizations in training volunteers and engaging families can develop children. The initial impact will be with a small group of students in one school. But imagine what the impact looks like in a basketball network when we have multiple grade levels at multiple schools buying into the league-bound way. Then we can transition into different extracurricular programs to develop children in additional ways. This creates a platform for different extracurricular interests in schools to impact children throughout the city, county, state, and then nation. We would be able to create the kind of community network through programming that supports social and emotional wellness in youth at early enough ages to help prevent the destructive behaviors that plague our communities. The main goal is to transform communities, and with the help of community, League-Bound Prevention Institute believes that together we can nurture our children to be healthy and resilient as they overcome the barriers they face.
So, what is League-Bound Prevention Institute? And so when I think of the word league, I think about professionals. And one thing I always tell my athletes is that all of you guys won't make it to the NBA. Actually, a very small few of people will make it to the NBA. But if you work hard at your studies and you develop character, you could be a professional at being you and be able to take care of your family. And so what League-Bound Prevention Institute plans on doing is being a nationwide leader in providing prevention services, as well as training youth development coaches in social emotional practices. The programs that we'll be offering is prevention services, of course, local extracurricular programming for elementary schools, league-bound training for coaches and volunteers, and also league-bound wraparound support for volunteers. And so what are the focuses of League-Bound Prevention Institute? Of course, you keep hearing me say this word prevention, and so what is prevention? Prevention is a technical word of saying teaching people what will prevent them from making unhealthy choices. And so what prevention entails is social emotional learning, character development, alcohol, tobacco, and drug resistance skills, as well as life skills. We want to make sure that our professionals, our coaches, and our mentors are trained in trauma-informed practices. We want to focus on mentoring, we want to focus on academic enrichment, family engagement, and supporting what we call a positive school climate. And so I just shared with you the programs. Of course, outcomes are very, very important. We want to focus on youth outcomes, we want to focus on volunteer outcomes, and family outcomes. And so with youth outcomes, we want to focus on social and emotional development, of course, increase mental and physical well-being, and giving them access to interest-based extracurricular networks with trained coaches and mentors. And then from a volunteer perspective, we want to make sure that they're knowledgeable in social emotional, our social emotional methodology. We want to make sure that they have knowledge of trauma-informed care. We want to give them the skills to be able to teach social emotional wellness. And we want to give them access to resources that will make them prepared to be able to do so. And by doing it, giving them that wraparound support, that provides a win-win situation where they come in and they feel supported and they're able to give their all to an organization that's able to give all to the community. And then from a family perspective, we want to make sure that family caretakers are informed. We want to give them confidence in extracurricular activities. And we also want to be able to provide a supportive environment. And in turn, we'll have healthy, safe, and resilient families that contribute to a productive community. And so we did a competitive analysis to be able to prove proof of concept. And locally, there's a prevention program called Second Step. They offer prevention programming in schools. They don't offer it out of schools. And so what we want to do is we want to compete with them with those in-school prevention services, but we also want to tap into that market that they're not using. And so as of right now, they serve in between 1,500 to 2,000 students per year. Then there's another organization called Up to Us Sports, Up to Us Coach, and they are based out of New York City. They're also in large markets. They've been in existence for over 10 years. And they have an AmeriCorps program which they use to use that staff to provide their prevention programming. And they've placed over 3,000 coaches in that program. In those coaches, the average age is 24, and those coaches usually serve, 65% of them serve in their actual communities. And then they also provide training to coaches. And so that's another niche that we want to tap into is, okay, we want to make sure that everyone has access to training if they're a coach, especially from an elementary perspective. And so over the last 10 years, they've coached over 26,000 coaches, and the average training time for those coaches is 35 hours. And so now that we talked about the organization, we want to talk about what's next. And so what we need is we need to be able to partner with schools, and so we need school alignment. The objectives in doing that school alignment is developing trust between schools and community partners, increasing student attendance, grades, and behaviors, and also creating a system of accountability and creating data points to do that. So then, once we have a partnership with the school, now we have to have a partnership with what we call a partner organization. And so when my son played basketball, he was with the organization called the Dayton Gators. And the Dayton Gators is ran by a person from the community who really had a heart for serving the community, as well as he recruited fathers such as myself who had a heart for doing the same thing, but also wanted to make sure that our children were really coached really well. And so what I thought about is, you know what, if an organization like that could get a partnership with the school, that would be ideal. So that's what League Bound Prevention wants to do. We want to help them, support them in creating school partnerships, and we also want to train the partner organizations in what we call League Bound practices. So now we have the partner organizations, we have the partnership with the schools, and then so now we want to tap into what we call a strategic achievement process. And that process is pretty much us making sure that we are committed to strategy, we are committed to a culture of learning, we are engaging one another, we are making sure that we're committed to social emotional enrichment, we are committed to student learning and academic achievement, and in turn kids will be prepared for success. And so now that we have the partner organization, we have the partnership with the school, we can't do anything without volunteers. And so our objective for volunteers is first and foremost to create a productive community volunteer network. We also want to create win-win opportunities for community volunteers. Being a volunteer can be absolutely stressful if you don't have support. And so then that means that we want to provide that wraparound support for volunteers to make sure that they have the resources and the training to be able to make sure that they're effective in providing those extracurricular activities. And so now that we've talked about the partnership with the school, we've talked about the partnership with the partner organizations, what it is that we're here to do is provide prevention programming. And so we want to be able to get those AmeriCorps workers, we want to get those volunteers into those partner organizations, and we want to integrate prevention into extracurricular programming to reinforce social emotional learning. We also want to provide youth and families with the extra level of support for social emotional learning, and we want to help kids define their interests and their passion and help them pursue them. And so my mentors have gotten on me about using technical terms that people don't understand. And so I'm not going to go into detail about these terms. This umbrella is what we call multi-tier support systems. And an easy way of me explaining that is that, you know what, they're called best practices. And in education, in prevention, you have to use best practices to make sure that you're using strategies that will ensure that you are achieving the type of impact that it is that you want to do. And so what this umbrella represents is that if we have these best practices stamped on our umbrella, we'll be able to protect our children. And so now that we have the prevention program and we make sure that it's stamped with those best practices, we want to make sure kids go through different phases of student learning with their extracurricular interests as well as social emotional skills. And so they'll transition from acquisition, which is pretty much an awareness, all the way to adaptation, which means that they're able to, they've achieved the skill and they're able to adapt it in the real world. And so if anybody's worked with children, they know how difficult it can be. I've had a kindergartner go through my legs and blow my whistle. I've had a 6th grader threaten to beat me up. And so what I've learned is that you cannot control kids. And we don't really necessarily want to do that as well. In that quote that I mentioned earlier, what he said is we want to teach people how to think and do for themselves. And so that's what self-regulation is all about. And what we believe is that we use those best practices and when you work together as a community, we'll be able to hit our target. And so, right now, what I want to do is I want to share with you how it is that we integrate social emotional wellness into our basketball program. And so, what we call these are the things that we help kids identify their emotions and be able to self-regulate. We don't focus on just negative. We want to be able to focus on positive and negative. So we use these terms so when it's necessary, we can go ahead and say what it is that we need to. And so we call mission driven green, which means that they're pretty much active. They're on a mission. We call yellow energetic yellow, which means that they may be excited, energetic, or they may be silly or goofy. Passionate red means that they are just, tuned in, they're focused, or also they can also be angry. Cool blue means that they're mellow, they're calm, or they can also be sad. And then we also have royal purple, which means that they're combining that red and that blue energy, and they're learning how to control it. And so now I'm going to show you an achievement chart of a student who was we used this from kindergarten to 7th grade. And so first grade, kindergarten, I would say that this kid came in and they had a lot of yellow. At that age, they're very energetic. And so he has a lot of yellow, but as you can see, they're all smiling faces. We want to make sure that we focus on the positive, and we want to help them be able to become aware of their emotions and learn how to regulate those. And so every time they come to a practice, they go through practice, they complete their mission, they get a green sticker. If they get redirected a number of different times, they get a yellow sticker. And if they become too angry or too passionate in the practice, they may get a red sticker. And so this is in kindergarten. Then we transition into first grade. We have less yellow stickers, which means that they're coming to practice, they're understanding the expectations. We still have all of the green stickers. We have 2 reds, which means that he may have been a little too passionate in that practice a couple times. But now he's also getting to a point where now he's earning purple stickers, which means that he's learning how to manage his energy and control and pursuing his goals in a hard way. And then now we transition into 2nd grade, and now you can see that there are no yellows. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have any yellow energy, which means that he's learning how to manage it when he's at practice. And so now we have no yellows. We still have 1 red, but now we also have more purple, which means that he's getting better and better at working hard and controlling his energy. This right here is what we call a character trait thing. And so, we have positive character traits, we have negative character traits. And so what we use like a traffic light signal. And so green means go. These are things that you naturally do. These are things that you already are doing. So you identify all of those things about yourself. Red means that these are things that may be negative things that you want to stop doing. So we want to recognize those as well. We want to say, we're going to create a plan to be able to overcome those things. And then purple, royal purple means that these are things that we want to achieve. These are goals that we would like to be able to have in our character development tool belt. And so now I'm going to share with you a video of my son sharing with you guys some ways that we integrate social emotional learning as well as executive functioning into basketball practice. First off, I need you to remind people what the speeds are. We got 5 speed. What is the red?
Stopping and shooting good.
Okay, what does green mean? Going at your own speed limit. Okay, what does yellow mean? Going smoothly on yellow. What does blue mean? Going on cool blue. What does purple mean? Super fast? Super fast, under control.
we try to find. 2, 1, time.
And so, I have over 20 years of experience working in prevention. I also have a master's degree in special education. And what I found in all these years is that those kids who end up having those yellow stickers and not learning how to self-regulate, and they become labeled with ADHD, or they have anxiety issues. Those kids who have a lot of those red stickers, they end up having anger issues. And if they don't learn how to self-regulate those things, they get out into society and they hurt themselves or they hurt others. And so it's really important for us to make sure. There's a quote by Frederick Douglass. He said, it's easier to build strong men and women than it is to repair broken ones. And so that's what League Bomb Prevention plans on to do. And we believe that if we use that umbrella that is stamped with best practices, and League Bomb Prevention as an institute is there with community holding that umbrella, we'll be able to protect our kids from those raindrops of trauma. And so what we plan on doing is our ask to be able to do that here in this community, starting with basketball, with the school of our choice, is $16,650. And I would like to partner with Family Not Tutoring to be able to provide prevention services as well as academic enrichment. Thanks a lot for your time. We're now open for questions.